At Disney World, everyone loves to talk about Avatar, Star Wars, Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, I say forget those. This video is about the true heroes of Disney World. Look, I absolutely love those rides I just mentioned, but you can spend a lot of your vacation waiting for them. 108 minutes? Who has time for that? Not me. I have places to be and Dole Whips to eat. Hi, I'm James from Guide to WDW. Time is precious, especially when you're on vacation. In my last video, I talked about the rides that I won't wait for at Disney World. This video is the opposite of that, about a category of rides that I call short kings, which I'm sure is a phrase that has no other meaning. These are the rides where you go, yeah, why not, it's only a 10-minute wait, and then they rock your socks off. And there's a ton of them at Disney World. I'm highlighting 16 of them today, broken out into 4 countdowns by theme park, but I'm also going to share many more honorable mentions that I ironically just didn't have time to get to. These rides are a huge part of my Disney World strategy. Here's why. Wait times at all 4 parks follow a predictable pattern. They're short in the morning, high in the middle of the day, and then low in the evening. So while other people waste a lot of time waiting for Avatar and Star Wars during these peak middle hours of the day, I try to use my time wisely and fill up the busy afternoon with several of these short wait attractions rather than waiting in 1 or 2 long lines the whole time. And these aren't just boring, outdated filler rides. This list includes rides, shows, and experiences that are charming, entertaining, and thrilling. And that's exactly where we're going to start, with one of the best rides at Disney World that has a surprisingly short wait. So my list of the best short wait rides at Animal Kingdom starts with number 3, Expedition Everest, which had an average wait time of 34 minutes last year. You might think that a 34-minute wait isn't exactly short, but let's put this in context. Expedition had the 31st longest wait of any ride at Disney World, and you can make a pretty good argument that it's one of the 5 best rides in all the parks. Let's also consider that Everest has much shorter waits than Space Mountain, Rock and Roller Coaster, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, or Slinky Dog Dash. And in my opinion, Expedition Everest is a better coaster than those others that I just mentioned. Plus, the actual line itself is really detailed, brilliantly setting up the story of the Yeti. So when I do have to wait in this line, I don't really mind because it's a great queue. But with Single Rider and Lightning Lane, you can easily have a really short wait for Everest. Let's go from one of the most revered rides at Disney World to one of the most underrated, one that's about to go extinct. Number 2, Dinosaur. With big dinos, unexpected twists and turns, and an average wait of 27 minutes, Dinosaur is a blast from the past. It's also a unique attraction at Disney World, having a really fun ride system only shared with Indiana Jones Adventure in Disneyland and Tokyo DisneySea. Now, Dinosaur definitely isn't on the same level of those indie rides in terms of theming, detail, and IP, which may be why Disney is redoing this ride into its own version of Indiana Jones Adventure when they transform Dinoland USA into a land themed to the tropical Americas in the next few years. Which is sad news for all the Dr. Seeker stands out there and fans for rides with short waits. Coming back to the present, the number 1 short wait attraction at Animal Kingdom is something that I'm a sucker for. It's fun for all ages, gives you a freebie, and it has no wait. Number 1, Wilderness Explorers. It's a sprawling, park-wide scavenger hunt, inviting guests to find dozens of Wilderness Explorer stations and earn merit badge stickers. It's educational, entertaining, and enhances your day in the park, all without a wait. Before we move on to EPCOT, here are the honorable mentions for the other great attractions at Animal Kingdom that have short waits. Oh, and here's a subscribe banner. What's that doing here? I guess to remind you to subscribe if you want more great Disney World videos. Okay, you can go now. EPCOT is chock full of short waits. Including the honorable mentions, there's 9 in total, and it's really easy to miss the first one on my list. In fact, I bet that most guests don't even know that it exists, despite the fact that it has no wait and it's a total duck blur. I'm talking about number 6, DuckTales World Showcase Adventure. A bit of EPCOT history. The World Showcase Adventure has existed for many years now. It's a scavenger hunt that gives you missions throughout the various countries in the back half of the park. This attraction has taken on many different forms. Not so long ago it was Agent P, to ancient ones like me it was Kim Possible, but now it's themed to the new DuckTales. a show that had finished its run on Disney Channel by the time that this attraction debuted. Synergy, baby! DuckTales is the most missable iteration of the World Showcase adventure because they used to have these kiosks where they would give you a cutting-edge spy communicator to kick off your mission. Now the attraction has been entirely offloaded to the Play Disney Parks app on your phone. The good news is that you can get started in the app from anywhere in the park. The bad news is that I bet most guests don't even know that this attraction exists, which is a shame because it's a lot of fun. Like Wilderness Explorers, it's an activity that you can do in between rides at your own pace, and there are some pretty neat effects that probably confuse the majority of guests that don't know about this game. Why does Scrooge McDuck suddenly pop up in Mexico with a laser cannon? I must have missed that day in AP World history. The next item on our list also has no wait, despite the fact that it's EPCOT's newest attraction, based on an insanely popular IP and initially debuted with a virtual queue. Even though it sounds like I'm describing Guardians of the Galaxy, it's definitely not that. Let's flow on over to World Nature for number 5, Journey of Water inspired by Moana. Despite some people describing this as a glorified line for a Moana ride that doesn't exist, I actually love Journey of Water. This interactive walkthrough perfectly threads the needle of incorporating IP while capturing the edutainment spirit of early Epcot that elder millennials like me are still clinging onto. I miss you, Innoventions. You can go in and experience some genuinely impressive water effects while playing in the different stations, and maybe along the way you'll have learned something about the water cycle. Because there's no line, it's a great way to spend 30 minutes of your day being entertained in a beautiful setting. It's awesome. Epcot is the gift that keeps on giving because the number 4 ride with a short wait is one of my favorite rides of all time. In fact, I have a poster of it right behind me. That's Spaceship Earth. I'm going to show that I'm a true Disney fan with this next sentence. That golf ball at the front of the park has a ride in it. And it's amazing. Spaceship Earth is epic in scale, spanning the history of humankind. It's the type of ride that Disney just doesn't make anymore. A long, deliberately paced attraction with detailed scenes and dozens of animatronics. Spaceship Earth is a marvel, and it only has an average wait of 18 minutes. The one knock against it and why it's not higher on my list is that the line outside is a bit miserable to wait in, especially on a hot day. Speaking of animatronics, let's move over to the best animatronic show at Disney World, and it never has a long wait. Number 3, The American Adventure. This is a lovely telling of the history of America that feels truly grand. The theater is incredible, and the cast of 35 different animatronics has been impressive for decades. When I was a kid, this show actually got me interested in American history. With a runtime of 30 minutes, this is also one of the best ways to get an air-conditioned break, or take a cat nap if we're being realistic. But its length is also a con, because even though it never really has a wait, if you miss the start of the show, you'll have to wait until the next showing. The number 2 ride has gained a bit of a cult following online, of people who know what it is to truly be living with the land. Some people argue that this is the best ride in Epcot. I won't go that far, but I love this relaxing boat ride in the Land Pavilion. The ride's popularity has ticked up in recent years. It's also become something of a meme online to show when Living with the Land has an insanely long line, like, OMG, right now, the land has a longer line than Rise of the Resistance, so you may think that it doesn't belong on a list of short wait rides. Wrong. Here's where the data reveals a different story than the online anecdotes. Last year, Living with the Land had an average wait time of just 11 minutes, with that bumping up to 19 minutes for the holiday overlay. Oh yeah, it's also one of Disney World's only rides with a holiday overlay. Bonus tip, it's next to one of my favorite lunch spots at Epcot, Sunshine Seasons. Now we come to the number 1 short wait ride at Epcot, which is one of Epcot's hidden gems. I would bet that your average guest doesn't realize that there's a boat ride inside the Mexico Pavilion. Grand Fiesta Tour. It's colorful, charming, and has some fun gags, and amazing acting. And the Oscar for Best Performance in a Theme Park Ride featuring ducks goes to... Plus, like Pirates of the Caribbean and Disneyland, you float past a restaurant. Why is this cool? I can't explain it, but it just is. And for guests 21 and over, you can get a nice little margarita buzz before riding, which is a nice bonus. Last year, Grand Fiesta Tour had an average wait time of just 10 minutes, which is incredible for such a delightful ride. And here are Epcot's honorable mentions. Over at Hollywood Studios, we have 3 attractions that have been entertaining guests for decades, including one of the only remaining opening day offerings from MGM Studios. Number 3, Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, which holds up incredibly well. Ironically, that's because it hasn't been updated or rethemed to one of the newer movies. This show is still based on Raiders of the Lost Ark, a perfect movie. Theater majors like me will also recognize that the Indy Stunt Show has 3 of Aristotle's elements of drama: character, spectacle, and audience participation. Most importantly, it has so much seating that it's really easy to grab a seat right before the show starts, and you get to see a Boulder Smusha guy. What else could you ask for? The next attraction on this list is criminally underrated and historically significant. Like, if Disney ever announces that they're closing it, I'm chaining myself to the entrance of Muppet Vision 3D. This is possibly Disney World's most overlooked and underrated attraction, despite the fact that it was the last film that Jim Henson directed before his untimely passing. It has great gags and it's endlessly quotable.
We entered a contest! Yeah, we lost!
Plus, it almost always has under a 10-minute wait, making it a pretty terrible use of Lightning Lane at Hollywood Studios, but a pretty great use of your time. The number 1 short wait ride at Hollywood Studios is a marquee attraction based on a massive property. It's intense, re-rideable, and it has a really short wait. R2, Lightspeed to Star Tours, the adventures continue. Star Tours is the e-ticket ride that gets overshadowed by the park's many other e-tickets. But it's a blast. With more iconic locations and characters, there's an argument that it's a better Star Wars ride than Millennium Falcon, at a much shorter wait, with an average of 20 minutes versus the Falcon's 66 minutes. Star Tours also gets bonus points for having one of the best lines in the park, just packed full of Easter eggs. Plus, it's the ride at Disney World that really rewards going on it multiple times, because something will be different thanks to the scenes being randomized. And they've added a bunch of new scenes over the years, and there's even new scenes being added soon with The Mandalorian and Ahsoka. All this adds up to the best short wait ride at Hollywood Studios. Let's throw up some honorable mentions on screen. Oh, so close. Finally, let's complete our park hopping marathon and make our way over to Magic Kingdom. It's Disney World's oldest theme park, and today I'm highlighting 5 timeless attractions that have really short waits. Let's start with one of the most iconic Disney rides. To me, it's a childhood rite of passage. Number 5, Dumbo. It's a classic for a reason, and the new Fantasyland upgrades it got several years ago really helped make it one of my favorite rides to recommend for families with young kids. It now has 2 carousels, doubling the capacity and making it have a short average wait time of just 21 minutes. Plus, there's a playground in the middle of the line with air conditioning and places to sit. If you have young kids, this playground is worth seeking out even if you don't end up going on the ride. For another dose of old school charm, let's go to Adventureland, where the birds sing words and the flowers bloom in Walt Disney's enchanted Tiki 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 Room. This is probably the only case in history where a sketchy fire did some good, because the enchanted Tiki Room is thankfully back under old management. If you know, you know. This show is great, with tons of colorful animatronic birds singing catchy songs. It's delightful for all ages. There's a reason why one of my son's first words was Tiki, and it's not because I spend so much time at Trader Sam's. Mostly. Last year, the Tiki Room had an average wait time of 9 minutes, but if you time it right, you can walk in right before showtime. Number 3 is Mickey's PhilharMagic, which opened in 2003, both making it the newest Magic Kingdom attraction on this list, and giving me a slight panic attack when I realized it was still over 20 years old now. Unlike the knockoff version at California Adventure, which stinks, this one is awesome. It has a giant widescreen, great 3D animation, amazing songs, and some fun effects in the theater. Plus, the average wait time is just 15 minutes. At the next attraction, there's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow and a not so big but still beautiful line. Let's take a trip across the decades on Carousel of Progress. This classic attraction debuted at the 1964 World's Fair, and they love to remind you that it's the stage show with the most performances ever, which is less impressive when you consider that the show is 20 minutes long, and to borrow a line from Muppet Vision, the actors are permanently bolted to the stage. But still, Carousel of Progress is a great time, telling the history of innovation across a century as experienced by one family who doesn't age, because they're vampires or demigods. The details are hazy, but the song is perpetually stuck in my head. Just like how this show perpetually doesn't have a wait, with just a 5-minute average wait time last year. So tomorrow is just a dream away, but the #1 short wait ride on my list is just a short walk away. It used to be Magic Kingdom's hidden gem, but the secret's gotten out. I'm talking about the People Mover. Like Living with the Land, its popularity has shot up in recent years, going from consistently being a walk-on to an average wait of 14 minutes last year. But even still, People Mover is a fantastic way to kick back and relax as you take a tour above Tomorrowland. Maybe one day we'll finally find out why they're constantly paging Mr. Morrow. Probably because he has another subscriber on YouTube. And here are the honorable mentions for Magic Kingdom. Are there any rides that I missed or that I shouldn't have included? Let me know in the comments below. And stay tuned for my next series of videos, which are all about Lightning Lane. In these, I'm bringing the advice and the data that will help you take the most popular attractions and turn them into short wait rides. So if you have any questions about Genie Plus or Lightning Lane, just let me know. This has been James from Guide to WDW. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you real soon.